I want to pause right here for just a moment. You might think getting hit with a speeding ticket only means paying a fine and losing a few demerit points, but I need to tell you that what's actually happening could completely change your financial life. The new driving regulations that have been rolled out across Australia aren't just affecting your ability to stay on the road or how much money you pay in penalties. These changes are reaching much deeper into your life, potentially impacting your pension payments, your Centerlink benefits, and creating consequences that most Australians have absolutely no idea are coming their way. Think about this carefully for a second. You're driving along. Maybe you were going a bit over the speed limit, or perhaps you quickly glanced at your phone to check a message. You get caught, you pay the fine, and you think that's the end of it. But here's what nobody is telling you. That single traffic violation has just triggered something much bigger. Information about that offense is now flowing through government databases, connecting with systems at Services Australia, and potentially putting your entire financial situation under a microscope that you didn't even know existed. Welcome to Centerlink Alert, where we break down exactly what's happening with government policies, payment changes, and the critical information that affects your daily life. If you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe right now and turn on those notifications, because the information we share here could literally save you thousands of dollars and protect benefits you've worked your whole life to receive. Today, we're diving into something that millions of Australians need to understand immediately, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this could be one of the most important videos you watch this year. Let me take you through what's actually happening right now across the country. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, every Australian state and territory has been implementing sweeping changes to their driving laws and enforcement systems. Now, you might be thinking these are just the usual updates that governments make every few years, maybe increasing a fine here or there. But what's happening is fundamentally different. These aren't isolated changes to traffic laws. What we're seeing is a comprehensive transformation in how driving behavior connects with your government benefits and the integration of systems that can see virtually everything about your life. Let me start by painting a clear picture of what's changed in each state. If you're in New South Wales, you've probably noticed the massive crackdown on mobile phone use while driving. The fines have exploded beyond what anyone expected. We're talking about more than $400 for your first offense, and if you get caught again, that jumps to $550 or more. But here's the part that really matters. Those violations now come with 5 demerit points attached to each offense. Stop and think about that for a moment. In most cases, you start with 12 or 13 demerit points total. A single moment of picking up your phone to change a song or read a text message has just cost you almost half of your entire point allocation. Victoria has taken a slightly different approach, but it's equally aggressive. They've deployed more than 50 mobile phone detection cameras throughout the state, and these aren't your ordinary traffic cameras. These systems use advanced artificial intelligence that can spot you using your phone even when you think you're being careful. The technology can see through windscreen glare, it works in low-light conditions, and it's operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't hide from these cameras, and they're catching thousands of drivers every single week. Up in Queensland, the authorities have gone after distracted driving from multiple angles. Yes, they're targeting phone use like everyone else, but they've expanded the definition of what counts as dangerous distracted driving. Eating while you're behind the wheel can now result in a fine. Putting on makeup while driving can get you penalized. Basically, anything that takes your attention away from the road is now fair game for enforcement officers to issue penalties. They've also dramatically increased the consequences for speeding through school zones, treating these violations as extremely serious matters with heavy fines and point penalties that can add up frighteningly fast. South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, the Northern Territory, and the Australian Capital Territory have all implemented their own versions of stricter enforcement. Each jurisdiction has focused on particular areas they consider high priority. Some are going hard on drink driving, with random breath testing stations appearing more frequently than ever before. Others are targeting drug driving with mobile testing units that can detect various substances in your system. The common thread connecting all of these changes is simple. Authorities everywhere are cracking down harder, enforcing more aggressively, and the penalties for getting caught have never been more severe. Now here's where this story takes a turn that most Australians have absolutely no awareness of whatsoever. Every single one of these traffic violations, every fine you pay, every demerit point that gets added to your record, all of this information is being fed into massive government databases that connect directly with Centerlink and Services Australia. This isn't some conspiracy theory or speculation. This is documented government policy that's been confirmed in official budget papers and departmental statements that are publicly available if you know where to look. The government calls this data matching system part of their income and asset verification and compliance checking framework. What this means in plain English is that your driving behavior, the vehicles you're caught driving, where you're driving them, and when you're on the road can all be used as evidence to verify whether the information you've provided to Centerlink is truthful and accurate. Let me give you some real-world examples of exactly how this plays out, because understanding these scenarios is absolutely critical. Imagine you're receiving the age pension, and when you applied for your pension, you declared that you own one vehicle that's worth about $12,000. Under the normal rules, your primary vehicle is exempt from the assets test, so that car doesn't count against you. But then one day you get pulled over for speeding, except you're not driving your declared vehicle. You're behind the wheel of a late-model luxury SUV that's worth $70,000. When the police officer checks the registration details, the system shows you as the registered owner of this expensive vehicle. That information immediately flows through to Centerlink's databases. They now have concrete evidence that you own a second vehicle worth $70,000 that you never declared to them. That SUV is not exempt from the assets test. That's $70,000 that needs to be added to your total asset calculation. Depending on what other assets you have, this could push you over the threshold where you're no longer eligible for the full pension, or potentially any pension at all. But the consequences don't stop there. Centerlink will now calculate how much pension money you received over the entire time you failed to declare this asset. That creates a debt that could be tens of thousands of dollars, and you're legally required to pay every cent of it back. Here's another scenario that's playing out right now and affecting real Australians every single day. Let's say you're on JobSeeker and you've been telling Centerlink that you have significant barriers to finding employment. Maybe you've indicated that transport is a major issue for you, that getting to potential workplaces is extremely difficult. Perhaps you've even used this as justification for why you can't attend certain job interviews or take positions that are further from your home. But then, over several months, traffic data shows you're regularly driving around the city, you're getting parking fines in commercial districts, and camera footage places you at various locations throughout the metropolitan area. When Centerlink reviews this information, they're going to question whether your claimed transport barriers are genuine. If you have access to a vehicle and you're clearly using it regularly, why are you claiming you can't get to job interviews or potential workplaces? This kind of discrepancy can result in your mutual obligation failures being viewed much more harshly, penalties being applied to your payments, and in serious cases, your job seeker payment being suspended or canceled entirely while they investigate whether you've been misleading them about your circumstances. Let me paint another picture that affects parents receiving government support. Suppose you're getting the parenting payment because you're raising children as a single parent following a relationship breakdown. You've told Centerlink that you're living alone with your kids at a specific address and that you're definitely single with no new partner. But parking infringement notices start showing your vehicle consistently parked overnight at a different residential address across town. Traffic cameras capture images of you with the same person in the passenger seat on multiple occasions at different times of day and night. Credit card data, which Centerlink can access in investigations, shows you making purchases at stores near this other address. Social media posts, which compliance officers absolutely do check, show photos that suggest you're in a relationship. When all of this data gets compiled and analyzed, it becomes crystal clear that you're actually living with a new partner in a de facto relationship. The person's income needed to be declared because it affects your payment rate and possibly your entire eligibility. Your parenting payment gets cut off immediately. A debt gets calculated for every single payment you received while you were in this undeclared relationship, potentially going back months or even years. We're talking about debts that can reach $20, $30, $40,000 or more. In cases where Centerlink determines you knew you should have reported the relationship and deliberately chose not to, you can face criminal fraud charges that carry the possibility of jail time. These aren't scare tactics or worst-case scenarios I'm inventing. These situations are happening to real people right now under the data matching systems that have been rolled out across the country. The technology to connect these dots exists, it's operational, and it's being used actively every single day to identify people who have provided incorrect or incomplete information to Centerlink. Now, I need to break down the demerit point system in detail because understanding this is crucial for every driver. When you get your license, you start with a specific allocation of demerit points. Every time you commit a traffic offense, points are deducted from your total. Once you hit 0 points, you lose your license automatically for a suspension period. Full license holders in most states start with 12 or 13 points depending on the specific jurisdiction. Provisional license holders typically have only 4 to 7 points to work with. Learner drivers have even fewer points available before they lose their license. Here's something many people don't realize about how the reset works. Demerit points stay on your record for 3 full years from the date the offense occurred, not from when you paid the fine or appeared in court if it went that far. This means you could have offenses from several years ago still counting against your total, and you need to keep track of them yourself because one more offense could tip you over the edge into license suspension. Let me walk you through common offenses and their point penalties so you understand how quickly things can spiral. Speeding less than 10 kilometers over the posted limit typically costs 1 demerit point. Going between 10 and 20 over costs 3 points. Exceeding the limit by more than 20 kilometers can cost 4 to 6 points depending on exactly how fast you were going. If you're caught doing more than 45 kilometers over the limit, you face immediate license suspension on the spot, regardless of how many points you have left. Not wearing a seatbelt costs 3 demerit points. Using your mobile phone while driving, which has become such a massive focus of enforcement recently, now costs 5 demerit points in most places. Running a red light costs 3 points. Making an illegal U-turn costs 3 points. Disobeying stop signs or give-way signs costs 3 points. Drink driving penalties vary significantly based on your blood alcohol reading and what class of license you hold, ranging from 3 points for low-range offenses up to immediate license suspension plus criminal charges for high-range violations. Drug driving, which police are now testing for aggressively with mobile testing units appearing everywhere, results in immediate loss of license when detected. The financial penalties attached to these offenses have also increased dramatically. A mobile phone violation can easily exceed $500 now. Speeding fines start around $130 for minor speeding, but can reach over $3,000 for extreme violations. Drink driving offenses carry fines in the thousands of dollars, plus you'll pay legal costs, face mandatory license suspension, and potentially serve jail time for serious offenses. But here's what you absolutely must understand. The immediate fine and the demerit points are just the start of your problems. What follows is a cascade of consequences that can devastate your life, especially if you're receiving any government payments. First consequence is the insurance impact. Multiple offenses or license loss will cause your premiums to explode. Some insurers will refuse to cover you at all. When you're living on a pension or Centerlink payments with no room in your budget, this additional cost can push you into serious financial hardship. Second is mobility. Losing your license means losing independence. For regional and rural Australians with limited public transport, this is devastating. You can't get to medical appointments easily. Grocery shopping becomes a major challenge. Social isolation increases, which seriously impacts mental health. If you're on disability support pension and lose your license, you've created another barrier to potential employment, making it even harder to ever get off payments. Third is employment impact. Countless jobs require a valid license. If you're on Job Seeker and lose your license, you've made yourself unemployable for vast numbers of positions. This extends how long you stay on benefits and reduces your future prospects significantly. Fourth, and this is the critical one, is the Centerlink compliance impact. As I've explained, every driving offense creates data that feeds into Services Australia systems. This data can trigger compliance reviews anytime, and these reviews are thorough, intrusive, and can result in payments being canceled and massive debts being issued if any discrepancies are discovered. So what do you do? How do you protect yourself? Let me give you the exact steps you need to take right now. First, review everything you've declared to Centerlink and make absolutely certain it's completely accurate. Check every vehicle you own is listed correctly with accurate values. Verify your address is current. Confirm your relationship status is declared correctly. Make sure all income is being reported properly. Second, if you find any errors or omissions, correct them immediately. Yes, fixing mistakes might reduce your payment or create a small debt, but finding and fixing errors yourself results in much lighter consequences than being caught through data matching. Third, if your circumstances have changed, report those changes within 14 days as legally required. Fourth, keep meticulous records of everything. Documentation is your best protection if questions ever arise. Fifth, if you receive a compliance review letter, respond promptly and honestly. Get help from welfare rights organizations if needed. These services exist specifically to help people navigate these complex situations. The bottom line is this: we're living in an era of unprecedented government surveillance and data integration. Every aspect of your life that touches government systems can be monitored and used to verify your entitlements. If you're receiving government payments, you must be scrupulously honest and accurate in all your dealings with Centerlink. The days of hoping things won't be noticed are completely over. The system will find discrepancies eventually, but if you're honest, accurate, and report changes promptly, you'll be fine. If this video has helped you understand these critical issues, give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might be affected. Subscribe to Centerlink Alert for ongoing coverage of policy changes that impact your daily life. Leave a comment below with your questions or experiences. Thanks for watching. Stay safe on the roads, stay compliant with your obligations, and I'll see you in the next video.